Hello, my name is Stuart Mease, Executive Director of Employee Relations at Wake Forest University. We're back at it again, giving you an update and trying to provide some clarity in the chaos and what we know is the college recruiting market. So a couple of things to start with. First, every aspect of college recruiting has changed. We are all, whether it's students, employers, career centers, vendors, we're all trying to understand the short-term and long-term impacts that this pandemic and now recession is having to our industry in this virtual environment. One thing that we do know, what we've seen from Wake Forest students at this particular time, that they are significantly more engaged this year as prior in the previous year, especially when it comes to appointments with our coaches and applications. However, but we're getting reports from our other colleagues at other schools, and Handshake's also done this analysis too. It does not indicate that that's happening nationwide. Student engagement nationwide appears to be much lower in this virtual environment. So we'll get into a little bit of that. So a couple of notable things when it comes to industry and companies that are hiring. In the last week or so, we've seen the unfortunate news at Disney, the number of people that they are laid off, as well as one of our top employers, KPMG. And we're trying to understand the impacts of that for our current students, but also for our recent alums as well. Based on some of the limited interview data and just data in general that we have, we're getting mixed reviews as to whether some of our top employers are hiring more, hiring less, or about the same. One of the groups that we work a lot with is Phil Gardner out of Michigan State, his recruiting trends survey. That's going to be released relatively soon, and this is probably the most exhaustive report on college recruiting. It's being done now for the 50th consecutive year, and I think we'll have some more insights when that is done in his nationwide research about what's happening with college recruiting. But what we do know, it's software development, accounting, sales, business development roles, analyst roles, project management still continue to be some of the most available and in-demand majors or skill sets that are being desired. Basically anything revenue producing, or if you have a billable skills students, that's what employers are really looking for now in this recession. How are they going to generate revenue for the company, eventually their shareholders? Again, a shout out to Andrew Seaman on LinkedIn. He has probably the most extensive list of company announcements as it relates to hiring. We're going to link that into the transcript here of this document. Burning Glass continues to report that security clearances, especially for government consulting jobs in high demand, CPA, project management certifications, certified teachers, these are very much still in demand, as well as top skills like customer service, project management, productivity tools. These are needed as well. So from a student perspective, make sure you're moving towards certifications or targeting some of these skills that you may have on resumes, talking about them in your interviews and cover letters as well. Now, what we're seeing from postings is since July, our excellent employee relations team at Wake Forest has sourced over 2,000 additional opportunities outside of our Handshake platform, and that's actually contributed to a 7.5% increase in the number of total opportunities are available for our students in that system in which to apply. These sourced opportunities are also being applied to at about 2.5 times those that are not sourced. So it's interesting that we're able to identify opportunities that are out in the marketplace right now, and our students are following up on that. And it doesn't matter if it's 2008 during the Great Recession or now during the pandemic recession, there are plenty of jobs available in the marketplace if you're willing to take a job that is not your dream job, or if you're willing to acquire the skills in demand, as evidenced by software developing, sales, et cetera. So it's important to be thinking about what are your billable skills, what value are you going to be adding to those that are ultimately going to be purchasing your time and talents. As I said before, there's more postings, about 7.5%. We're also seeing our students apply 86% more applications year over year. So yeah, there are more opportunities, but there's 10, 11, 12 times as many applications that are going on with our students for these opportunities. So still the supply and demand is a little bit off, and it's probably going to be harder because there's more candidates for these employers to select. We also see that from internships year over year, that remains strong, as we've talked about previously, 31% increase in internship postings year over year. Specifically, the Northeast and West have much higher postings than some of the other regions in the U.S. And perhaps it's because of some of the remote benefits that we all have come to enjoy, which is shorter commute times, and in the case of the Northeast and the West, lower housing costs. They don't have to have that component in terms of going after talent. Now, we're also seeing from employers that recruiters are getting a plethora of candidates, and therefore those time to hire, time to fill ratios are getting significantly shorter. And as a result, we're telling our job seekers that they must apply early and well before the posted deadlines, because there's no guarantee that that position is still going to be open by the deadline that they have selected there. For student activity, as I was saying before, although evidence exists that student engagement is down nationally, we're seeing our students, again, with 86% increase in applications, but also they're applying to a more diversified group of jobs, which tells me they're being a little bit less picky, they're being more open to things that may not be exactly their number one choice, which I think is very good in this environment. When it comes to Career Center activity, Handshake reported that they have hosted about 900 virtual fairs so far this academic year, and they have produced about 127,000 connections between employers and students during these virtual environments, which I think is interesting. Now that everything is online, everything is trackable, which gives us some good data. However, just in comparison purposes, the Wake Forest virtual fair that was hosted a few weeks ago, just our one big fair generated nearly 1,000 students, resulting in about 3,000 of those 127,000 connections between employers and students. So what we're seeing is that many schools and companies are moving to more smaller niche types of events virtually, as opposed to maybe some of these larger, massive fairs that you've seen offline, where you take these big halls and for 2 or 3 days you have hundreds, thousands of students coming in. Another thing that we're seeing is directors from some other career centers are reporting challenges to collecting and reporting on key metrics that have in years past forecasted outcomes, things such as interviews. That is going to be a challenge moving forward, and people are trying to scramble to find ways in which they can come up with this information, but to help. There is no easy solution to that. So next step for job seekers, we try and close this every time saying, well, what should I be doing right now if I'm a job seeker? Seekers understanding the demand side of the labor market, billable skills they're looking for right now, and the time cycle of college recruiting as a whole. We think of maybe 2/3 of all college recruiting is done in the fall. Those students that are aware of this, embrace this, understand this, we believe will be in a better position to be more successful sooner. Second, applying now to internships and jobs is an imperative. A flood of candidates that these employers are receiving right now, as I said, is going to reduce that time to hire, time to fill ratios. You have to get in there now. There's no guarantees after the election. We may not have a vaccine as soon as we think that there may be. It's just a lot of unknowns. You've got to get in there now while we know we have a lot of these opportunities. Third, there is going to be more time needed by the individual job seeker. There's more effort that's going to need to be exerted to manage and navigate these virtual recruiting platforms. And quite frankly, career centers just aren't able to assist as effectively as they have offline because there's not as many of the natural touch points that are occurring. So there's more that is being asked on the student to interact in these specific ways. And then finally, obtaining those specialized skills, understanding what your value is to the company, and acquiring those skill sets, talking about them in your resume, cover letters, interviews, that is critically important for you so that you can talk the language of what it is that they're looking for. Those are the 4 things that we have. If you have any questions, any comments, any suggestions, if you don't agree with something, please let us know. Comment at the end of this, and we would love to hear from you. But until next time, hang in there. We'll see you next week.